How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's having a great day. It's been, what, like 2 days? It's been 2 days since I've streamed on TikTok. Um, Yesterday was exciting. I was on The Line. Um, I don't know, it was always fun talking to Justin, although we got, like no theist caller, um, the entire time, or I think there was, like, one. There was, like, one at the end, and it was, like, agonizing, but, you know, I think that's like part of the project of debating theists is that, you know, a lot of them are like painfully confused. A lot of them have like genuinely no idea what they're talking about, like not even a little bit. And that kind of adds to the fun, kind of adds to the excitement. It's like the sort of like horrific suffering that we enjoy for some reason. I don't know. Apparently there's in philosophy of aesthetics, apparently that's the sort of thing that gets discussed is like there's all these like aesthetic paradoxes that you find like horror movies enjoyable even though the themes should be like very repulsive, that they can have like good aesthetic value. Um, that's the stuff I don't know, maybe that stuff would be interesting if I gave a shit about aesthetics. Um, and I just don't. I super don't. I don't care. Um, Although, I mean, I changed my mind about objective ethics, by just getting clear on, like, what it would mean for ethics to be objective. So maybe if somebody gave me, like a compelling explanation about, like, what is, like, aesthetic realism trying to do? Like, what is it actually, like, claiming about the world? Because for moral realism, what moral realism is claiming is that everybody has reasons to take specific actions. So if you can establish certain actions that everyone has reasons to take, then you've established the existence of ethics. Um, but I wonder if there's like some sort of like equivalent in like aesthetic realism, like objective aesthetics. Um, I don't know. I bet there's probably an SCP article on this. Let's look. Uh, Aesthetic realism. What? There isn't? Aesthetic. We got aesthetic testimony, aesthetic judgment, aesthetic experience. Damn. I guess let's just go through each of these. Okay, aesthetic testimony, the table of contents. We got what? Testimony and aesthetic. What the fuck is testimony and aesthetics? Yeah, my friend told me that this art piece was really good. Um, yeah, okay. I'm sure it's probably an interesting issue. I'm just not gonna read up on it. Okay, so we got aesthetic judgment. Hmm. I don't think it's there. Maybe the concept of the aesthetic? Yeah, I bet it'd probably be in this page titled The Concept of the Aesthetic. Anyway. Hey, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I'm also open to debating deists. You must believe in a personal ultimate foundation, just like a personal being, a being with a mind, who also serves the role of being like the ultimate foundation of reality, of being. It needs to be the thing where everything else, like if you were to trace back all the line, like the chains of being, um, for example, if you were to trace back like the causal chain or like the grounding chain, eventually you end up at God for any chain of being. That's what it means to be ultimate. It's just that everything comes back to you. It like depends on you for its existence. Um, So, if you believe in like an ultimate foundation, but one that's personal, one that is like a mind, feel free to request to join. I'd love to debate with you. But if you don't believe in that, don't request to join. Why would you waste my time like that? How dare you, frankly. One sec. I need to send something out really quick. Okay, but sorry to make you wait. But while we're doing this, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, and all the good stuff. What? Okay. That's okay. I'll just have to remember to do that. All right. Where do you ground your epistemology? Gosh, grounding epistemology, like grounding your study of knowledge? Are you asking like something like, how do you like justify your beliefs? Is that what the question's trying to ask? Because like the study, well, probably like a long historical chain. I think that you're probably not asking the question that you think you're asking. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, hello, how are you, man?
Yeah, doing well. How old are you?
I'm 18.
Yep. And what religion?
Uh, it's kind of confusing. So basically, it's a necrophilic child rapism. So
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know why you would wait in like the guest request box for like 10 minutes just to say, here's the punchline. I'm evil. I don't know. It's like not even like a funny joke, but I guess, to each their own. Of course, we don't we reject aesthetic realism here. But anyway, hey, if you're in that guest request box, if you want to debate the topic, if you think God does exist, feel free to hit that request to join button. I currently have nobody requesting to join. You got to be 18 or older. You got to believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I'm also okay with debating with like a deist, but you need to believe, at the very least, that there's like an ultimate foundation, and that foundation has a mind. That's what God is. If you don't hold to that, then don't request to join. With that, we'll go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. How old are you?
I'm 18.
Yep. And what religion?
I'm Christian.
Okay, what makes you think God exists?
So, consciousness as a thing is very hard to explain. There's a lot spiritually, and I feel like that there's this way I see the world. I used to be an atheist, but there's this way I see the world that consciousness and how humans express emotion and feel things, there has to be something else out there to give us consciousness, to give us a soul.
So there's a couple of claims to unpack there. Okay. First, I totally agree. I think consciousness is very strange. I think that there are like a lot of things about consciousness that are very weird. But I think that it's kind of a strange thing on every view. I'm not sure that there's any view that has like a good explanation for consciousness. And I don't think God explains it very well, because kind of what you'd be doing is you'd just be like, your belief would just be that there's like a fundamental consciousness out there. So I'm not sure if like just baking it into the theory is good. But okay, regardless, I think we have good reason to think that consciousness just reduces to the brain. That's why when people get brain damage, they lose specific parts of their conscious experience. If you get damaged in like a specific region of the brain, you might no longer be able to see the color blue. That kind of makes sense if consciousness reduces to the brain, but that's really weird if consciousness doesn't reduce to the brain. What would you make of that?
I kind of see consciousness in the sense of like, you explained, right? If you just sort of lose the ability to see the color blue,
Mhm.
right? That's more of like a chemical response. What I'm really, trying to understand in this world is, the ability that me and you have to debate right now how we got to have this technology, how we got to be so advanced. I do think I'm not like a strict Christian, so I'm definitely like I don't believe all the stories in the Bible. People were trying to explain things that they didn't understand back then.
Mhm.
And we have scientific research to explain those things now. However, there are still more questions that need to be answered. And so therefore, it gives me a lot of faith um, that I'll figure out the answer of consciousness and of my life through God.
Mhm. So I totally agree that there's like a lot of questions that still need to be answered. There's mysteries that abound us. I just have no idea why God is a good solution or a good answer to any of the questions. It kind of just seems like a way of like deceiving yourself to think that you know more than you actually do. If we don't know what the explanation for something is, I'm not sure why we would just say, well, probably God did it with no evidence. That just seems like a recipe for disaster, and in fact, it kind of seems like at that point we would just be, like, deceiving ourselves.
Yeah, but I mean, I like to think um, of the intellectual hierarchy of species. We have a higher IQ than a beta fish does. Um, Humans have the highest IQ on Earth.
Mhm. Yeah,
Wouldn't it be possible that there might be something out there that has a higher IQ than humans?
maybe. I think the galaxy or I think the universe is a huge place. I think it's very likely that there's life elsewhere. But I mean, there's going to be something that has the highest intelligence. If you have any number of creatures and their intelligence varies, you know, one of them is going to be the most intelligent one. It just happens to be humans. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that there's like something that needs like a deep explanation there other than evolution. I think evolution is capable of explaining this. There are lots of reasons why humans work well with intelligence. We're social
Hmm.
creatures, so we're capable of, I don't know, combining our ideas and planning things together. We're capable of forming like more intricate societal structures than any other animal is. Just because we're social creatures, we're capable of using tools because of our hands, our dexterity. Another reason why we're able to make a lot of usage out of intelligence. It seems like there's a really good evolutionary explanation for why humans specifically are intelligent, more intelligent than like dogs, for example.
Yeah, I completely believe in evolution. I'm like a scientific Christian. I'm not going to debunk science over here. Evolution
Mhm.
is real. Um, but I don't sit right with the fact that we have the entire universe. And I think that there may be a being. I don't necessarily think that it is just some guy. I think that it is a power. I think that it is a force. I see God as something, that isn't explainable because we aren't sure if God is real or not. So therefore, I treat God as the unexplainable. I don't know what God looks like. Um, However, it should be open that maybe there is something out there that is higher of power than humans.
Do you think God is in the universe?
I think that God is a universe. I think that God is everything.
Oh, you
I
don't want
think
to
God
say
holds.
that because the Bible says explicitly multiple times that God's the creator of everything. If you're saying God is everything, then you'd have to say that God like created himself, and that's kind of nonsense.
I see God as the Holy Spirit. He, well, not as the Holy Spirit. It's weird with Christianity. I'm I'm not a strict Christian, so I'm not gonna like listen to like what the Bible defines God as because I have my own definition. That's pretty loose, but I think that it's really hard for me, I guess, to get rid of that idea that we have this whole universe
Which parts of
and there's
Christianity
not
do you believe
anything else
in?
out there.
You don't sound like much of a Christian at all. Like, is there any like Christian doctrine that you actually believe in?
I believe to live life how Jesus lived,
Okay.
that he is a role model and he is the embodiment of peace.
Yeah, but
And
in
he is the
terms,
Son of
so
God.
I understand, like you're saying, like you should live life as Jesus lived life. You know, you think that that's like a good ethical stance. Oh, she dropped. I don't know why she dropped. Okay, she's welcome to come back up if she wants. But anyway, all right, let's go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. How old are you?
39.
Yep. And what religion?
I'm Christian.
Yep. And what makes you think God exists?
Because the Bible is inspired by God.
Yeah, what's the argument for that?
I have a whole book here I wrote.
Okay. Do you want to summarize your best argument from that book?
It's 10 Bible facts atheists can't explain.
Yeah, sure. Let's go through some of the Bible facts that atheists can't
Okay.
explain.
Let's go with number 1, creation.
Yeah, sure. What about it?
So Genesis 1:1, time, space, and matter, all brought into existence instantly.
Do you think God was eternally willing
So-
time, space, and matter into existence, or do you think he began to will it at some point?
I think he's beyond time, space, and matter.
Do you think that answered the question?
Yeah, he's outside of it. That's the
Yeah,
only
what
thing that could
question?
create it.
Wait, sorry, what question do you think I asked you?
Repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Sure, yeah. Do you think God was eternally creating time, space, and matter? Or did he go from a state where he wasn't creating time, space, and matter, and then he began to create time, space, and matter? Do you think he was always doing that? Or do you think that there was like a point where he began to create?
Oh, well, we have a beginning. So for us, there was a point when he began, yeah.
Sure, so then God changed. God changed from not creating to creating. So then God's in time. So he can't be the creator of time because he's a changing God. He's a temporal God.
No, time didn't exist for us until he started.
But in order for God to change, he would need to be within time itself. A God that's within time itself can't be the creator of time, space, and matter. So it sounds like even on your first point, the argument kind of falls apart.
Oh, no. That's incorrect.
Okay, do you have
It
like a
could be
rebuttal?
inside
or-
it and outside of it.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
gosh,
he could be
you know.
inside of time and outside of time.
Yeah, you just like have to affirm contradictions to make sense of the Bible.
He actually is inside and outside of it when Jesus comes because he's Jesus.
Yep, it's a contradiction. Yeah.
No, it's not a contradiction. It's a possibility for God because he's all powerful.
So, what do you think a contradiction is?
If I said 1 + 1 is 2, and you said, and I said, then I went and said 1 + 1 is 3, right?
Yeah,
That'd be a
more or less.
contradiction.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a contradiction to say something and then to say the opposite of that thing. So, if you were to say that God is in time, then you can't say also that God is not in time. That's a contradiction.
Well, if he created it, he was outside of it.
He can't
He
do
was
that.
inside of it.
Yeah, he can't
Why
do that
can't
for
he?
the reason that I just illustrated. Either he was always creating or he began to create. If he was always creating, then he never
Someone's
actually
lying.
creates because creation just would have always existed. But the flip side is that God was not always creating, in which case you have a bigger problem, which is that God can't create time at that point because he would need to change. He would be in a state where he's not creating and then he would change to creating. So in order to change, you need to be within time because that's the succession of moments, succession of events. And there would be events in your life,
you-
an event where you're not creating and an
you're-
event where you're creating. So you would have to be in time in order to change to begin to create time.
I think you're limiting God to what we're limited to.
Logic? Is God not logical? Do you hold like an illogical belief?
Because actually no one's ever created time, so you don't even, he's the only one that could do that. I don't know.
Wow, no one's ever created time. God created time. Brilliant,
Yeah.
coherent,
So,
powerful.
I don't quite understand what you mean.
That's another contradiction, like a direct contradiction. There both is and isn't an entity that created time.
So what would be your view, that time created itself?
That time always existed.
If it always existed, we could have never gotten to this point to start with.
Not if the entire timeline is actual. If all of the timeline is actual, which is the view of time that's best suggested by physics, for example, there's a lot of indications in physics that past, present, and future are all equally actual, that what actually exists is the entire timeline, and that the experience of passage is something that exists because our minds perceive it to exist. So the way that we get to this moment in time, the way that we get to this moment in time is that this moment in time was eternally actual, along with the rest of the timeline.
I don't believe we could get to this time. It'd be unlimited amount of time to get here, so we wouldn't.
Do you think
be
that
able
responds
get
to the argument?
Yeah, to your point of view. Like,
what do you
it's
think the
infinite
argument
amount
that I
of
just made
time.
is?
You can't go back an infinite amount of time. For us, that's impossible.
What argument did I just make? Or were you not listening?
So, time, space, and matter was brought into existence.
He's short-circuiting, dude. Oh no.
So the
This
writer
dude like
of
ripped
Genesis,
his headphones straight out of his ears as soon as I started talking. He didn't listen to a word that I said.
I haven't made my point, and you start asking questions.
You asked, how would we get to here? I gave you an answer, and then you apparently didn't listen to that answer.
Okay, but can I make a point first?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so it's the only order that could possibly work is the way it was written in Genesis. So in the beginning, God, outside of time, space, and matter, created the heaven. So time first, space second, and the earth, matter third. That's the only way it works.
Wow. Compelling.
Because, hold on, if you didn't have time before space, when would you make it?
What if they all always existed?
If you didn't have space before matter, where would you put it?
Holy shit, dude. He's like, stick to the script, stick to the script.
It's not a script, I wrote it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's a book.
typically you write scripts.
I'd love for you to have a copy of it for free, though. You've got an
Okay.
email I can send it to you.
No, I know it's in you got the QR code.
Yep, QR code.
Yeah. Do you think God knows what time it is?
Yeah, he probably could tell you exactly. I mean, I know he could tell you exactly how old the Earth is. If you mean by
I'm
what
asking,
time
like,
it is.
does God know right now that the time is, before 4 p.m. EST? Does God know right now what the time
yeah.
is? So God's
Yeah.
knowledge changes over time. So then God is just in time. So he can't be the creator of time if he's in time.
He's inside and outside of time.
Yeah,
He can-
brilliant. Yeah, I forgot.
Here's a good analogy.
How is
here.
anyone going to penetrate this like circular argument?
So for us, we're like stuck in the boat going down the river.
Mhm.
He's in a helicopter. He can move anywhere he wants to.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it's like super insightful. Except you still affirmed a contradiction. What a horrible view of
The river
God.
would be time.
Do you have to be inside of time means that you have past, present, and future. To be outside of time means that you don't have past, present, and future. So God both has past, present, and future, and also lacks past, present, and future. Do you think God is within the laws of logic?
Sure.
Okay. So do you think that it's a contradiction to both have a past, present, and future, but also to not have a past, present, and future?
Well, when you have three parts, yeah.
You think God has parts? You're a partialist? That's heresy.
The Trinity. The
That's
Trinity.
to say that there are parts of God is heresy. I don't know if you knew that. It's called partialism.
You have parts. You have a head.
No, I
you have
know.
arms,
But to
you
say
have
that God has
legs,
parts
you
is
have a
considered
soul,
heresy, dating back, I
spirit,
think, to the
and body.
Nicene Creed. But yeah.
Yeah. You were made in the image of God. Did you know
So
that?
God is like a totality. Does God, as a totality, like his mind, does his mind have past, present, and future?
Does his mind have past, present, and future?
Yeah.
I guess when he's dealing with us in this realm, yeah.
Sure. So then God's in time.
Yeah.
Yep. So then he's not outside of time.
Well, it could be that the Holy Spirit can do all that for him while he's in the third heaven right now. So
Sure. So,
but
okay. I'm a person. I have like the human essence. So we have one person. You have the human essence. That's two people. You know, Molly has the human essence. We got three people right there. So we got the Father who has the divine essence. So that would be one divine being. We got the Son who has the divine essence. That's two divine beings. And then we got the Holy Spirit who has the divine essence. That's three divine beings. So in total, you would just believe in three divine beings.
3 and 1, they're all
Yeah,
the
so you
same.
would affirm the existence of three gods.
So Father, Son, and Spirit,
Yeah, three. So you believe in three gods.
the Trinity.
Yeah. Is that correct?
They're all the same. They're all one.
But they're three separate people with three separate
They're
entities.
equal.
Or
They're
with
all
three
the same.
separate essences.
Just
Are they
like we're made in
identical?
the image of God. No, I wouldn't say identical. I don't guess.
So you have these three distinct
Just
beings
because I
with
don't
an essence.
understand
That's three things.
right.
That's how we count. You
Okay.
count objects by counting the number of objects that instantiate the essence. You know, that's why to determine how
Well,
many
that's what I
glasses
call
are
the
on your
Trinity.
table, you would count how many things have the glass essence. You know, I have one thing with the glass essence. If I had like another identical thing with the glass essence that was distinct from this thing, then that would be two glasses. You know, that's how you count. So if you have two beings with the God essence, that's two gods. And if you have three beings with the God essence, that's three gods.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if you want to say three gods, that's fine.
Okay, sure. So what's your next point?
So if you continue, just the way it was written, it had to be in that order, right? So you go with verse 2. Let's go ahead and skip to verse 3. And so verse 3, sound is
I was hoping
introduced. He
for
don't
the
start
one after
speaking.
the creation argument. You know, I'm hoping you have a point that doesn't lead to like a trillion contradictions like your last one did.
Okay, here we go. We can go to number 2. So, trying to find out a good point here. So, do you believe in a primordial soup,
I don't know what that's asking.
that life emerged from a primordial soup?
What's a primordial soup?
Well, it's like a little soup that the creature crawled out of, that
Oh yeah, the primordial soup. It's like a little soup. Yeah, God.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you never heard of that?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'll move on then. So why has the age of the earth changed so many times for people that believe in evolution?
I think these things are disconnected topics. I also, to be clear, I think all of science could be wrong, and that still wouldn't mean that God is correct.
Oh, okay. Well,
Like, why would that be? Why would it follow that if like science is wrong, that God is like the correct explanation? Wouldn't you need
well,
some sort of independent evidence that establishes that God is like a reliable thing?
we can actually trace creation back to October 23rd, 4004 BC.
How?
So the Earth is 6,029 years old. It never
Yeah.
changed, like evolution changes over and over.
Yeah, let's say evolution's false. Why would it be true then that God is the correct answer? Like, what's the evidence that creation happened at that time?
The evidence is right there in the Bible.
Well, I looked at the Bible, and the Bible says a bunch of false things. For example, it says that pi has a value of 3. They're describing a circular object, and then they describe what its like diameter is and what its circumference is. And of course, you can find the value of pi by taking a circle and then dividing the circumference of that circle by the diameter, and it should be 3.14. But in the Bible, you have something that has a circumference of 30, and then a diameter of 10. You get a value of pi being 3. That's not true.
Oh, they probably just rounded that number. That's already been discussed by apologetics.
Of course, right? You just have to throw away what the Bible says. It's not speaking literally.
But I have to leave for an appointment. I'd like to join back in sometime, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, hey, thanks for coming up. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should I don't know, maybe Molly, maybe I should start like a log of the people to clip. That guy's a person to clip. All right, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Good afternoon.
Yep. How old are you?
39.
And what religion?
Christian.
Yep. What makes you think God exists?
Well, on the grounds of logic, obviously for there to be an effect, there has to be a cause, and everything that has been created is an effect. So logically, we can assume that there's a creator. So that's my broad scope. But of course, we can go down to smaller things.
Yeah.
Like life,
How about
No
we stick
matter-
with creation first? So
Okay.
your first point, if I'm understanding the argument correctly, it seems to be this, that the
Mhm.
universe was created, and because it was created, it's an effect, and every effect has a cause, so there must be a cause to the universe.
Yes.
Why would I think that the universe was created as opposed to always existing?
Well, as what I said before, we're reasoning within the scope of human intelligence. If I see a car, logically, I'm going to assume that that car was created because it was an effect. So applying terrestrial or earthly intelligence to the possibility of there being a creator, then it's totally sound to presume that once something is created, there's a creator for that thing.
Yeah, but that's kind of the exact problem, is that I don't grant that the universe was created. The reason why when I see a car, I assume that it was created is because I know where cars come from. I know that cars come from the assembly plant for cars. I don't know that the universe comes from God willing the universe into existence. So I don't know how I would then reason that the universe is created. I also think that we have good reason just independently to think that the universe wasn't created. Typically, when something was created by an extremely competent engineer, every single part of that thing has a purpose. There is nothing that's purposeless throughout the universe. But I look to the universe and there's like a ton of stuff that has no purpose. For example, the fact that kids get cancer, the fact that earthquakes exist, the fact that the sun gives us cancer, malaria, parasites, all of these things, it would just be a way better world if they didn't happen.
Well, I think that's very subjective because remember that we don't know the aim of the creator or God. So, what if God created the world in a way where things have to die for things to live, which is like a part of the process of evolution? Because, I think there has been over 100 billion humans, and, relatively we live to about 80 years old. So if no one was dying and we were still reproducing at this rate, that would be unsustainable. So to project like cancer, parasites, and stuff like that in a negative light, it's from a perspective of wanting to have a better or longer life.
Yeah. Let's say
Yeah.
that there's a button in front of you, or I'm sorry, let's change this slightly. Let's say that you have the power to make all cancer instantly disappear forever just by
Mhm.
willing it. All you need to do is will that all the cancer in the world disappears forever and then it's gone. It never returns. Do you think that doing that would be the good thing to do?
I can't say it would be good or bad because it's very subjective. Because think about it. God gives us 80 years. Maybe we're one of the longer living species. Why in yourself you think that you should live for an eternity or even 200-300 years at the expense of other species? Because at the end of the day, as far as we know, the earth is finite and its resources are finite. So,
You
maybe
wouldn't cure
God,
cancer?
yeah.
I'm having a really tough time getting over this. You're saying in your worldview, curing cancer would be the wrong thing to do? How could that possibly be?
Well, the thing is that cancer is basically the degradation of your cells as you age, or it can happen earlier. But I just think that cancer is an organic way for us to transition into another phase. But
So if
because
you
it,
got cancer, just to make sure that you're being consistent, if you got cancer, you
Mhm.
wouldn't do any treatment to try to get rid of that cancer. If your kid got cancer, you wouldn't take them into like chemotherapy. Is that correct?
I would, but
You
at the end
would.
at the end of the day, God sent his son, which is Jesus. Jesus
Mm.
only got like 33 or 32 years and he was God's son. He didn't even get a wife or kids. So if God
Mm.
gave his son 30 little years, why if I get a little bit more than that, or why should I feel entitled? Remember that,
Mm.
we didn't decide to be born. We're just probabilities. So, the fact that
Yeah.
you're alive, it's a blessing.
Yeah, very
You know?
insightful, except for the fact that what you've just said is inconsistent. You just told me that curing cancer is not a good thing to do, but then you
No, I
also
didn't
told
say
me
it's not a
that
good thing. I'm just
is
saying that
curing cancer a
good.
good thing to do?
Well, I'm not going to look at it in the scope of good or bad. I'm looking at
I'm
it
asking you in the scope of good or bad, is curing
Well,
cancer a good thing to do?
that's what I'm saying. I don't have a subjective opinion on cancer
You're
because I
agnostic?
know that life is a transition. We come in a certain way and we will go in a certain way. And cancer is just a breaking down of cells. Think about it. I don't know if you eat meat, but you have to kill a chicken
I
to
don't
eat.
eat meat. I think it's
Okay,
wrong.
or you have to kill a plant to eat if you're a vegan.
Plants don't
You know,
suffer.
that is very subjective because if something is alive, we can presume that it reacts to stimuli, and
That's not the same thing as suffering.
stimuli sometimes can be pain. That is why
Yeah.
if you put like fire against a leaf, it will quail or it'll shrink. It will respond to it. It won't
Yeah,
just
but we
you
have good
know.
reason to think that that's not something that's like analogous to like a qualitative experience of pain, unless you think that like the rock has like sentience, or like everything that reacts in any way, like the piece of paper when you set it on fire because it like crumples up, that has like sentience. Unless you hold like some wacky view about like the nature of minds like that, no. In
Well,
order
I'm
to
gonna
feel
disqualify.
pain, you would need to have a brain, and trees
I,
don't
I'm
have one
gonna
of those.
I'm gonna disqualify that because you have animate stuff and inanimate stuff. Animate stuff grows. Plants grow. Rocks do not grow. A paper cannot grow. A paper is literally a dead form of something that grew, which is a tree. You know, so based on human intelligence, we can say that things that grow have feelings because they can experience change, and when they experience change, they can respond positively or negatively.
So if I found you like a human who is like biologically incapable of growing because of some disease, would you conclude that that human doesn't feel pain?
Well,
If I
the
found
re-
you like a fire and that fire grows, would you assume that that fire does feel pain?
so
This seems like a really silly standard.
no, I think you're that's like a false analogy, because if there's a human that doesn't grow, they must have grown to where they were at, because you know a baby has to become of a certain age, and a fire is literally a mixture of different substances that feeds off objects. Like a fire can't thrive without oxygen. It has to have
Humans
something to
can't grow
feed.
without external material. So then you would say that like, how does the fire not satisfy your definition of growing? Like it grows in the same way that humans do, which is that we consume materials and then we add it to our body composition and size. So does a fire.
Well, in the sense of it growing, that's similar to us, but it literally has to feed off stuff consistently.
So do we.
Yes, and even if that is true, which I'm willing to concede that yes, that's a similar trait between us and fire. I'm not gonna say that once something can. I'd more classify a fire as spreading rather than growing. You know,
Okay.
because and here's my rationale. A fire has to be consistently be in the presence of stuff that are burning. But for example, yes, we have to eat to grow, but it's not as if we have to be eating like consistently. You know,
But you
a
need to be like
human.
breathing like consistently, and you know, a fire also does that. It breathes consistently. But I mean, you could have a fire and then you just don't give it more fuel. Like, I mean, humans are constantly working off of the fuel that we already have stored within us.
Yes,
I'm just not
yes.
sure. Like, if your standard is for something being like conscious and feeling pain, I don't think growth is a good standard for determining whether or not something feels pain. I think you're going
Well,
to end up
not,
saying
not
that a fire feels pain. It's going to fit all the same standards that a human does.
yeah, the growth aspect is one, but I also incorporated responding to stimuli. You know,
What
I
does that
mean,
mean?
changes, like changes in its environment. Like, for example, if you apply like strong force to flesh, it becomes bruised. You know, if you do the same thing to a tree, it becomes, you know, bruised, and then it tries to recover. So you can see that there's a state that it aspires to be in. For
Same thing with
example,
fire, right? When you pour water on fire, you know, it recoils and, you know, lets out like a ton of like smoke or like steam.
all right. So, in terms of like the logics of what we're saying to explain God, I think we're at a dead end with the growth and the feeling
Okay.
comparison.
Yeah.
Listen me up. For example, before Columbus came to the New World, if you were in Europe and someone said to you, you know, there's there's a land where there's bounty, it has never been explored by the old world, maybe you would have said, I'm not saying you must, but maybe you would have said, no, there's no evidence to suggest that, you know. So it is very, I think it's very presumptuous to project the scope of our intelligence onto the possibilities that are out there. And the evidence that strongly suggests that is, no matter how a doctor knows how the human body works, can that knowledge create life?
Yeah.
So you
Um,
know,
yeah, a couple
so
things to say about that. In the scenario that you described, I actually would take that to be evidence because I do take testimonial from reliable sources to be at least some amount of evidence. You know, it wouldn't be as good of evidence as if I saw it myself, but I would still take that to be, some amount of evidence for a claim that's mundane, like there exists an island over there. I would hold quite a bit of a higher standard for a claim like, Jesus rose from the dead. That's quite a higher claim. And also, I don't disbelieve in God because I can't see him. I
Mhm.
disbelieve in God because his properties violate the laws of logic. There are contradictions within God's properties.
But remember that before Galileo used his telescope to discover stuff in the universe, we didn't know that it existed. So whatsoever position we're arguing from is limited by the scope of our intelligence.
Damn, did
So
any of the stuff that Galileo find have like a contradiction in its existence?
no, I think there's this narrative that science exists in contradiction to God's creation, but I think science beautifully explains everything about God. Look at the
That's an
internet.
excellent slogan. How are we going to get around the fact that God has contradictory properties and that contradictions are false?
All right. Look at the internet. I'm speaking to you. How do I know that it's you that I'm speaking to? But that's because there's a metaphysical world. There's nothing physical that's attaching me to you, but I can still see the physical you. So, and this is science, So a lot of things that exist show that there's something beyond the physical, which presents itself in a physical form. Yeah.
I this is like crazy because I actually love metaphysics. I don't think that has anything to do with metaphysics. Like I don't think that you would need to argue like metaphysically to explain how you know that I actually exist. I don't think that would be appealing to like some sort of like theory of metaphysics other than like specific like background assumptions. I think that you have like physical evidence for this. I don't think you have like metaphysical evidence for it.
Yes, because as what I said, look at the internet. The satellites are in space and there's nothing physical that connects space to Earth.
There is
Yet,
space-time.
yeah.
Also, they transmit like signals. They transmit like packets.
Yes, and those stuff are not physical, at least not to the naked eye.
They're not to the naked eye, but they are physical.
Exactly.
They exist within the universe. They exist within particle fields. They are physical.
So it's not physical to our naked eyes. So had we not discovered certain scientific processes, we would have been saying, "Oh my God, that's magic," because we can't see it. So that is why I'm saying that
you're still on this. Do you think that the reason why I don't believe in God is because I can't see him?
Well, when you can see something, it's very.
That was a yes or no question, by the way.
Seeing is a strong affirmation of beliefs.
Try number 2. Yes or no? Do you think that the reason why I don't believe in God is because I can't see him?
To be honest, I don't know, but
I told you that's not the reason why earlier. It kind of feels like you're not listening.
Well, I'm listening, Art. Why don't you believe in God?
Because there are contradictions in God's properties. God is a contradictory object. Okay. God can't be essentially morally good and also have free will. Do you think that God must do the good thing?
No. And
then he's not essentially morally perfect. He's not all good.
Well, the thing is that the earth, remember that God made us in his own image. So whilst we're not at the level of God, we're like a reflection of what God would be. And, sometimes doing something that is subjectively bad is the overall better option. Like, for example, you have a murderer, you apprehend that murderer.
But does God always do the most good thing is the question.
I can't answer that. I can't answer it. But
how about we explore both possibilities? Let's say God doesn't do the most good thing, then he's not an all good God. So if you want to say that God is all good, then you need to say that he always does the most good thing.
Well, I would say that in terms of doing the most good thing, I I wouldn't be able to question God's what reason for the stuff that he does, because he, at the end of the day, he is the overarching force over us.
Do you
You
think I'm
know?
asking you what reasons God does things for? You think that's what I asked you?
No, but I'm just telling you that I'm not in a position to like qualify God's decisions.
Do
You
you
know
think
what
I'm
I
asking
mean?
you to qualify God's decision? I'm not asking you to justify the decisions that God's made. I'm asking you, does God always do the good thing? Must God do the good thing? Or can
All right.
sometimes God do the bad thing?
All right. Now, all right. So if we're gonna get technical, you know, good is very relative. As what I'm telling you, like killing is bad, but if you kill a murderer, maybe it's good.
What does
You know what I
what does it
mean?
mean to say that God's all good if good is relative? I'm sorry,
But
I should back up. Do you think God is all good?
um, well, good is a very subjective word, and that is what I'm telling you. That, like, for example, in certain cultures, something that is good can be bad in another culture. So it's a very subjective word, you know?
But do you think God is all good?
Like, overall, yes, all
Okay.
good, but yes, but I'm
Relative to what?
relative to his plans. So, for example,
Oh. Well, couldn't God be
I
like a child rapist and still be all good then? Like if his plans were child rape? Wouldn't he be all good if he just carried out those plans? Because it's in line with his plans?
well, to associate God with child raping, I think that's a, you know, that's very, like, that's stretching it, you know what I mean?
Relative to what? You're a moral relativist, remember?
Yeah, but like that's an extreme act, you know, and there's
Relative to
no,
what?
just relative to like life, you know.
Relative
God
to
said,
life. But
yes.
you said that all goodness, all badness is relative. You're saying that
Hmm.
that's bad. Relative to
Yes,
what?
I'd say that's
Relative to
objectively
like,
bad.
you'd say that that's objectively bad.
To rape, yes, yes,
Yes. So then
yes,
suddenly
yes.
ethics are not relative. Suddenly they became objective just now.
Well, there are certain things. So, as what I tell you, like if you're in a war zone and there's a combatant, you can kill that person, and it's gonna be viewed as not a bad thing, just a necessary thing.
When
But
are
like,
ethics relative and when do they become objective? Like, what's the
um,
standard?
that is within the scope of our cultural, you know, upbringing.
So
You know what
even
I
the
mean?
objective things are relative.
Some of them, which is,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. You
Okay.
know,
Well, I mean, I'm probably going to move on to the next guest with the closing thought that, relatively God has objective ethics. Banger. Kane, thanks so much for the super chat. Stir it up, give it a scoop. Life began in primordial soup. Pooh Bear thought, thanks so much for the super chat. Kicked out of the book club because I don't care for oh, okay. I thought this person was airing like book club drama. Not that there is any book club drama, which is why I was so confused. Kicked out of the book club because I don't care for Brandon Sanderson. Call it the law of non-contrafiction. That's funny. I like that. Qatar, thanks so much for the super chat. If God is outside of time, then when we get to heaven, will the Exodus have happened? Will Jesus have died yet? I think that all the models of God being outside of time are like pretty implausible. But one of the ways that people might try to explicate it, this is the model that put forward by Stump and Kurtzman, is I think they want to say that there's one eternal moment that God exists within, and it's just simultaneous to all of the other moments. But this has like kind of the unwanted effect that like kind of all the moments are just simultaneous. Like I don't know what to make of that. Like that just can't be. Respectfully, that's just not true. Dr. Fudge, thanks so much for the super chat. Crystals grow. Are they animate? This guest's got an unpleasant smugness. Dr. Fudge, thanks so much for the super chat. I think guest might be a scammer actually. At least a weird guru type looking at his site. Okay. I don't know. Didn't look. Tales of the Levant, thanks so much for the super chat. If you had $1 every time I ran your agent's presupposed evaluations have value argument, you'd be a rich man. Seriously, thank you. Whoa. That's great. I really like that. I actually changed Matt Dillahunty's mind about objective ethics We've Goworth pilled him. I don't know. We had like a chat about it at the end of one of the days on the line. And he found it all like really compelling. And in fact, he had me on and we made like a Patreon video for his Patreon where we talked about objective ethics. Illumineus, thanks so much for the cool core membership. Appreciate you. All right, let's go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Yep, how old are you?
I'm
There seems to be a
41.
bit of an echo. Do you have headphones?
Is there? Yeah, I have headphones on. Should I take them off?
It's weird that there's the echo. Yeah, sure. Try taking them off.
How's that? Is that better?
I think so. Let's see. Yep,
Okay.
that's better.
Cool, cool.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
how old are you?
I'm 41.
And what religion?
I'm Muslim.
Okay, yeah. What makes you think God exists?
So I think God exists because the opposite type of worldview, or any worldview that includes atheism, is actually contradictory.
Okay,
So,
so let
and I
me.
can present that.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a
Let me
sort of
get this argument up so we can track along in like a very linear progression. Okay, so you're saying, if God doesn't exist, so any worldview without God is contradictory.
Yep.
What's the argument for that?
Yeah, so the argument is it's a basic syllogism, two premises, one conclusion. Anything which can be conceived of exists. Premise two, God is conceivable. Conclusion, therefore, God exists. Now,
Uh,
premise one is
oh wait,
true.
so basic syllogism, two premises, one conclusion. If it's
Yep.
conceivable, it exists.
Anything which is conceivable exists. Yep.
Okay, wait. So okay.
And because premise one and premise
So it's
two are
just is
true,
premise 1.1 just anything conceivable exists?
premise 1.1.
Yeah.
Premise
To justify
one is-
premise 1. So I'm
Sure.
asking like what's the justification that any worldview without God is contradictory? And you said anything conceivable exists, God is conceivable.
Yeah, it leads to a contradiction. So if we were to further advance this argument and play out the logical conclusions of this argument, anything which can be conceived of exists. You as an atheist, you can conceive of a God, and you're committed to the
So
conclusion.
for
which is therefore
example,
God
like
exists.
like the pink unicorn exists because I can conceive of it.
In your worldview, yes. it
Okay,
exists.
sure. Then I guess I take that like as a bit of a reductio. If
Sure.
you think that like the pink unicorn exists, I
No,
don't know
no,
why I
I'm
would take your
saying-
worldview seriously.
No,
Like,
no, you're
okay, I
missing the
can
point.
conceive of like Greg, the god killing penguin who would kill God and make him non-existent.
Yeah, does that mean that you had to conceive of a God in order to quote unquote kill that God?
Yes, yeah, I would
still had to
conceive of
conceive
the
of, right?
god, and then I'd conceive of like Greg, the god killing penguin who then kills God. So then I would drive at the conclusion that God doesn't exist by this like everything that you can conceive of exists standard. In fact, it seems like it's contradictory.
No, it's actually the problem is in your worldview. So it's not about my commitments.
Oh
it's
wait,
about
so
your
it's so you're
commitments.
saying in my
Yeah.
worldview,
That's why I said this argument is underneath the banner, the umbrella.
anything
of
conceivable
atheistic
exists?
paradigm.
Yeah, okay, sure. Then I'm just
Yeah.
going to ask for a justification for this premise.
Yeah, so it's internal critique, right? So the
Okay.
atheist affirms that
It's
something
an
exists. Right?
internal critique. Is that premise
Yes.
1.1.1?
No. So you, as the atheist, you
What's
affirm
premise
that something exists.
1.1.1?
Nope. So you, as the atheist, you affirm
You,
that something
as
exists,
an
right?
atheist, affirm that
This is a question
something
to you.
exists. No, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
it's
I'm
a
not.
question.
I'm looking for the argument. Is what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
So-
I'm just making sure that we're on the
so,
same. We're
To
on
be
the same
clear,
foundation.
if that wasn't the premise, then I'll just ask like, what's premise 1.1.1?
Yeah, if you'd like that and you want to do it in this way, that's
I
no
do.
problem. So whatever is affirmed to exist, it must be known through experience.
Whatever
Whatever
is
is genuine-
affirmed to exist
Mhm.
must be known through experience.
Yes. And whatever is
premise-
genuinely conceived.
1.1.2.
Yeah, whatever is genuinely conceived is present within experience.
Whatever is genuinely conceived is present in your experience. Jeeves, is there like a premise 1.1.3?
Therefore, whatever, well, obviously anything which can be conceived of exists. So whatever you
Okay,
is genuinely
Sure. So
conceived
that
of
would just
falls
be like
within
the two premises that yield the
Yeah, I mean,
conclusion
exactly. It
that in my
falls
worldview
within-
anything conceivable exists.
Right, it falls within the set of what the
yeah,
atheist treats
what
as
a-
existing.
Yeah,
You
what
get it?
inference rule does this
Okay.
follow?
So I mean, it's modus. Well, the first one is modus ponens.
Just like the highlighted one, whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience. Whatever is genuinely conceived is present in your experience. What inference rule does this
Yeah,
follow?
I believe that's modus ponens.
What do you think modus ponens
Or
is?
modus tollens.
You think this is modus tollens? What do you think modus
Modus
tollens is?
Is it not?
What do you think modus tollens is? It's not.
Okay, then what is it? You tell me.
It doesn't follow a valid inference rule, is my point.
Okay, cool.
There is
So
no
what's the
inference
pro-
rule
what-
that corresponds to this.
What is invalid about it?
What is, sorry, you're a bit quiet. Let me turn you up. Yeah, ask that question again.
Yeah, what is invalid about it?
The fact that the conclusion doesn't necessarily follow from the premises.
And what do you think the conclusion is?
The conclusion is that in my worldview, anything that's conceivable exists. The argument is that whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience. Whatever is genuinely conceived is present in your experience. The reason why this doesn't follow is because you have the conclusion C, the premise 1.1.1a, premise 1.1.2b, but A, B, therefore C isn't a valid inference rule because you could have, it could be the case that A and B are false and then C is true. Or
Well,
the alternative
that's because
that,
you didn't,
you
you
know,
didn't hear my conclusion.
this is A and B are true and C is false.
Yeah, you didn't hear my conclusion.
The
as I was saying.
conclusion that you were arguing for is that in my worldview, anything that's conceivable exists.
No, I concluded by saying, therefore, whatever is genuinely conceived falls within the set of what the atheist treats as existent.
Yes, that is the thing
Yes.
that's highlighted. Correct.
So that's not what I wrote. That's not what you wrote. So
Can you
didn't write
meaningfully
down-
differentiate what you just said from in my worldview, anything conceivable exists?
Yeah, whatever is genuinely conceived, meaning whatever you can conceive of, it
Yes.
falls within the set of what you treat as existent.
Yes.
So it logically follows from.
But how is
the
that
two
different
premises.
from what's written on the board?
It's valid. It's a valid argument.
But
Whatever
how
is
does that
affirmed
differ? How does that
exists.
conclusion differ from what I wrote on the board?
Yeah, my point is that the way I wrote
He can't
it,
answer the
it shows it
question.
very clearly.
He's
that it
literally
logically
incapable of
follows.
answering. He's like allergic to
It-
answering.
It logically follows.
Okay,
Whatever
let's
is
get the
affirmed
exact
exists.
wording, and then we'll ask you which inference rule it follows by. So give me the exact wording.
Yeah, whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience.
Whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience. This is circular. This
How
is
it
literally
circular?
identical to the premise that justifies it, that you're attempting to justify it with.
So how's it circular?
Because
to-
the
that's a claim.
conclusion is identical to the first premise.
How so?
Look at it. 1.1 is whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience. 1.1.1 is whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience.
And
It's
did you forget
circular.
did you forget what I said in the beginning? I said you do believe that something exists, right?
That's
You
a question.
affirmed that something exists.
So I asked
You
you
said
to
you
give me
affirm.
the exact wording for the conclusion that you wanted me to write down, and then I wrote it down. Do you
but you
understand?
forgot-
Wait. Can we just get like a quick like acknowledgement of reality? Can you just acknowledge that these are identical premises?
No, they're not identical.
You
It's
don't
actually
think
me
these are
reference-
identical premises?
It's actually me referencing.
This guy
the
doesn't
question.
think that whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience. It's identical to whatever is affirmed to exist must be known through experience.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't
You
say
just
that.
said that these are not identical. It's highlighted. It's on the board.
I gave you a clarifying question in the beginning.
He's
I said,
still trying to
Do
dodge,
you
dude.
believe?
This is
Yeah,
really bad.
I said, do you believe? Do you
Oh,
affirm that
gosh.
anything exists?
I don't know
I
what
said
you
it was a
think this
simple
is going to
question.
do at this point. Just engage with the question. Can you acknowledge that these are identical premises?
No, I mean they're not obviously unless you.
They're
have some
not.
kind
You
of
don't think
weird-
that the things that are highlighted are identical?
Maybe you have a weird notion of identity. Do you know what identity means? Identity is that which is.
You
the same
don't
in
think
all
that these
forms.
two things
and at all
are identical.
times.
If you don't think that these two things are identical, then frankly, I just don't think that there's any point of engaging if you can't even acknowledge, like if you're saying point blank that these things are not identical. I don't know. It's just like a level of bad faith that I'm not really interested in. All right. Make sure that you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists. And that will go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. How old are you?
Okay, good. Thanks for doing this. Before we start, is it okay if I make some concessions?
Yeah, sure.
So I'll concede that the problem of evil is the greatest opposition to theism. So I'm going to agree with you on most of that. And if it's okay, I'm not going to directly argue that God is real, but I'm more going to argue that a belief in God could be more rational than some atheists usually would concede in reverse. Is that okay?
No, I agree. There are a lot of like stupid atheists out there. I don't base my beliefs on whether or not there are like stupid people on the other side.
Okay, then maybe I could provide more of a point of view to where I view that theism could be more rationally followed or more rationally believed in than you would concede. And if I'm wrong, then I'll just accept that.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm an agnostic Christian, so I'll lead with that. But I was listening to a podcast like a year ago with Sean Carroll, and he brought on a guy to talk about causality and everything. And you said earlier that you like metaphysics and you enjoy that conversation. And it was about the metaphysics of causality. I also find that to be pretty interesting. And they were talking about the laws of the universe being real or fake. And essentially, I thought the conversation reached an interesting point when they were saying, you know, ultimately there's no, like, they weren't really causally realist. They were saying, you know, ultimately we can't really point from one cause to another. These are like human things that we ascribe to like the interaction of matter and all that. And that makes sense, that's a good argument. But Sean Carroll posed an interesting question. He said, well, you know, just experientially, why do the laws of the universe work so well? Like, why do they work so well if we can't say that they're causally real? And then I can't remember the guest's name, but he responded, and thank you for letting me be a little long-winded here, but I can't remember the guest's name, but he responded, well, we don't want to go down that path because eventually you'll just keep adding, you know, an infinite amount of layers to say, well, this is why there's causes and the laws of the universe make sense and this and this. And that infinite regress is just like not useful to engage with. And then the theists would come in and say, oh, well, this is God, this is God. And my point is that I think it's kind of equally arbitrary to say that infinite regress causality or that mysterious void of causality is God just as much as it's nothing. And I think it's actually okay for theism to start from a place of like engaging with that mystery. I don't know if that was a little confusing the way I worded it, but if you could give me some charity in how I came across with that.
Yeah. Okay. You seem like intelligent and you seem like nice enough. So I think I'll give you like.
Thank you.
Okay. It feels like okay. Like I disagree with Sean Carroll on this. He's expressing like a Bertrand Russell view of causation, where
Right.
kind of in physics there is no causation. You know, because
Right.
the equations are symmetrical. They, you know, if A equals B, then B equals A. You can reverse it. There isn't like a clear directionality there. I don't hold to that view. I hold to. I'm probably a pluralist about causation. I think that the term causation refers to probably a couple of things, but if
Right.
you want like one that's like relevant to physics, one type of causation that exists, I think that you could describe. Are you familiar with like general relativity at all, or like special relativity at all?
Yes.
Yes. Do you know what like a world line is?
World line, no.
So okay, so you in relativity you have like a four-dimensional space-time, and
Yes.
objects trace paths through it, and you know, so imagine like the four-dimensional like block universe. You know, there's like a version of me, and it's like stacked, like okay, all the coordinates
I
are
can
held
accept
fixed, and then
yeah,
like
you
there's
can
like
keep
some
going and
slight
I'll accept it.
increment in like the time dimension, and I'm still in the same place. Maybe my hands have moved a little bit, but the point is that I'm my position in space-time is like tracing like a line through space-time. So one model
Sure.
of causation that I enjoy is the model that claims that what causation is the transference of energies through intersections in world lines. That this is able to account for kind of all of the particle interactions and all of the causation that takes place there.
Okay, so I appreciate that. And so let me know if I'm making a leap here or if I need to go research what you're telling me. But so if you're I appreciate your description of causality. My question would be, are you a materialist? Are you like a hardline materialist, if I can ask?
No, I think I'm currently a Platonist, and I'm honestly, frankly, moving towards like Aristotelian realism, I think. I think the view that I might end up with, I have some reading to do, but I think the view that I might end up with is that I might just think that like there's like fundamental like mathematical structures that give rise to the rest of the universe.
Okay. Interesting. So I'll go off of that point is, if there's underlying mathematical structure, then would you like allow me to call that maybe like a lowercase o order to the universe?
I don't like in terms of like an ontological like hierarchy, like a grounding hierarchy.
Well, the reason I don't say capital O order is because obviously I would move to say that would be, like some sort of abstract God that I'm arguing for. But I'm wondering if you would say that the underlying mathematical structure of the universe that you're talking about that might give rise to everything and like ordered enough that you could call it order rather than like something almost logically incomprehensible.
I'm not sure I understand. So I take ordering to be like a type of thing that you can do. Like you put things in like a specific sequence based on like some criteria. Could you tell me like
not mathematical order, like probably the way that like a general theist would say there's order to the universe. You know what I'm talking about with that?
Kind of, although it's like a bit opaque for me. Like I feel like oftentimes what they mean by that is that when I like reflect on things in the universe, there are a lot of things that are like cool and intricate. And I mean, I agree, I think that there are things that are like cool and intricate. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure that this is like a good basis for an argument. I think I'd want to get clearer on what order actually means.
Well, I think I would say if you can acknowledge that there's an underlying mathematical structure, it's strongly enough talking about the order that I'm talking about, because by talking about math, which you probably know more about than me, but I think that inherently implies like an underlying logic to everything. And I think what I would say is the very basis of most theism comes down to the belief that there is an order, there is an underlying logic rather than not. And where theists and atheists split is the atheist, or at least like the agnostic, would say, well, there's nothing more we could ever know about that. And then the theist would probably like follow and make like certain assumptions that would go beyond logic into the spiritual to try to make sense of all that. Are you following me up to this point? I guess I'm. Yeah,
maybe. I hold kind of a weird view currently. So I think that everything reduces ultimately. I'll just defend like the Platonist view. In fact, it might even be like a Platonic like monism. So I think that everything ultimately reduces to mathematical objects. I think that that's what's at the foundation of at least like our physical reality. I think that if you trace everything in our physical reality down far enough, it just becomes mathematical objects, and then maybe those further reduced to something. But I think that's how. Yeah, go for it.
And these mathematical objects,
you're lagging out a bit.
That just a representation of whatever. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go for it.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Do these mathematical objects exist to you as like an actual underlying reality, or are they just a representation of what you guess is there? Okay.
Yeah, they're like an actual underlying reality.
So then when you in your position, I guess you said you're not a hardline materialist, but in your position as an atheist, then would you be sympathetic to the view that someone could call that God, what you're talking about?
No, I don't think so, because I saw in the comment section you said that you're a philosophy student. Can I ask how many years in you are?
No. It's been a couple years. I've graduated, but I studied it. It's been a couple years. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, you might already know this, but in philosophy, the mind is attributed a property called intentionality, or like a lot of mental states have intentionality, which means that they're about something. There's like an object of a lot of our mental states. There's like an object, there's like a thing that you desire. You have a mental state desire. and there's like a thing that this mental state is aimed at. You have, when you think, you're thinking about something necessarily. You can't think but it not be about something.
Right.
So I think that what God is essentially is a mind. If nothing else, God is a mind, and then there's probably something like the ultimate foundation in there, or there's something like being limitless in there, something of that sort. So I don't think that the fundamental thing can be a mind, because mental states are about things, but what could God's mental states possibly be about if that just is the foundation? If God existed alone, his mental states would have to be about other mental states that he has. There's nothing else that they could actually like genuinely be about.
Right. I think, you know what, I will concede that I think the more traits that you try to ascribe to God, the harder it gets to defend within the philosophical realm. And so that's why I really do talk about kind of an abstract God, and then another conversation to be why I call myself an agnostic Christian. But you're talking about the mind, which I think is a good point. Have you heard of or read the book All Things Are Full of Gods by David Bentley Hart, which came out like within the last year or two?
No.
It's pretty interesting, and I don't think you'd agree with most of the arguments, but it's actually written in a Socratic dialogue, which I think is cool for like a book these days. But he talks about his argument at its core that I'd probably butcher right now is that he calls like this underlying layer of reality like mind, and all things like make up mind, which he combines to be like intelligence, the mathematical structure, like consciousness and all that. It's actually kind of a pantheist argument. I'm sorry, not a pantheist, a panpsychist argument in a way. And I think if you were a panpsychist, what I would say is this, and I don't want to take up too much time, so maybe you can respond to this and then I'll let someone else go. But I think if you were a panpsychist and then so you also believed what you believe, which is like that there is an underlying mathematical order, then you could almost make like a theological argument for consciousness that could lead into a lot of theistic arguments. And I think, to me, that's compelling. I'd be curious to hear what you think about this.
Yeah. I mean, let's just take a look at the pantheistic worldview really quick. Or not the pantheistic, the panpsychist worldview really quick. This is what panpsychists believe.
Don't be racist. I am a building.
According to leading panpsychists, that's the exact thing that's how could this do that? How could I have my music doxed like that? What the fuck? Humiliating. What a horrible experience. But according to like the leading panpsychists, every building is having an experience right now. There's a building just like that somewhere. No, I'm kidding. I'm probably more sympathetic to panpsychism
Right.
than that. But
I get what you're saying.
yeah.
I'm not a hardline panpsychist either. In fact, I don't even think David Bentley Hart says it's explicitly panpsychist. But to be honest, it's hard not to see the parallels, because that's been one of the major conversations in the mind-body problem over the past couple of years. But
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously like the hard problem of consciousness is hard. So I'm not sold on panpsychism, but I certainly haven't ruled it out, and I certainly don't I'm not like revolted by the thought of like panpsychism. But it kind of sounds like it collapses into like an idealism that
yeah, it definitely gets into some. Yeah, I would agree. Which is why if you're not a hardline materialist, you might be a little open to it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Although one of the critiques that I have of idealism is that there seems to be a regress of it, like a problem of like regresses of intentionality, that at the base there is like these like mental properties. I don't know if this is the view that people hold to, but I think one of the things that mental properties have is that they're about something. There's like intentionality about them. They have like a representational character. But it's not clear to me, if the foundation is mental, it's not clear to me what they're actually representing.
Yeah, I would need to think about that and those properties. So yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, I think that's a good question to pose about that.
Yeah, I'm sure like an idealist would have an answer to it. I've just never heard one yet.
Yeah, I think at the lower levels of abstraction it gets tricky, but I think, in summary, I actually think your underlying mathematical structure kind of like universe view is kind of compatible with at least what I was going for from the beginning, which is that someone could reasonably pursue like theological interest based off of like kind of what they view that structure to be. But I agree with your political goals and kind of how you take down these people who you talk with. And anyway, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. We should talk again sometime.
Oh, great. Thank you. Maybe I'll send you an email. Have a good one, Ian.
Absolutely. Wow, that's great. That guy was pretty chill. Let's get a big W for that dude. I don't know. I can always appreciate that. One sec. Let's read some supers. Dank Bird Game, thanks so much for the super chat. 3 progressively terrible arguments in a row. Impressive. I'm sure that wasn't about this last guest. I forget. I'm sure. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was with the dude whose like stuff I was like typing out. God, that dude was the goat. Pink Flamingo, thanks so much for the cool Corey membership. Sorry, I guess like more commentary about the dude who is trying to run like Muslim precept. I think the funniest thing to do to precepts is to make them give like a formal argument. I actually think that that's probably an unbeatable strategy against the precept, is you just pull up like the transcript and then you start typing out, because they don't have a justification for the first premise. So, but it becomes very obvious that they don't have a justification as you continue to type it out. And then like the turbo meme is to ask them like what inference rule it follows, because they're asking you to how you ground logic, and they like frankly don't know anything about it. Like they don't know what an inference rule is. Logic is like a vibe to them. It's like, oh, that's when things are like really true. Whoa, thanks. Appreciate that. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. Dumb question. Would mathematical objects be synonyms with excitations of mathematical sequences? No, I think that a mathematical object is just going to be something that either is a set or is like reducible to sets. Sir James, thanks so much for the super chat. What topic is the most fun debating, God, gay, or Christian beliefs? I prefer the God topic. I think the God topic has way more depth to it. The gay topic has a lot of crash outs. The problem with the gay topic is that it just like so often the person you're talking to might genuinely have like 50 IQ points. It's like I'm unconvinced that the people we talk to on like the gay topic, like I'm unconvinced that they would pass my threshold for like moral consideration. You know, it actually might be permissible to abort the average person that I debate on the gay topic. Hyperosion, thanks so much for the super chat. David Bentley Hart has a pretty devastating argument against eternal hell, and he's arguing inside the classical theist framework. That's interesting. Wait, maybe that's how I know the name. I looked briefly into like problem of hell stuff. Oh, well. I mean, eternal hell is like, frankly, like super implausible anyway. You know, if I were a theist, I would be clawing to get away from like a doctrine like eternal hell. Hey, what's up, Ems?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, what's up?
On the gay topic, we had do you know Nemo?
Nemo?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she had a panel up talking about the gay topic, and a guy from Algeria came up. You wouldn't be able to guess what his career was in.
I don't even know. Wait, what is it?
He baits gay people on Grindr to get them arrested by the police.
What a fucking monster, dude. I actually think like that's like the type of person where I actually think that like them like ending things. I think if a person like that like took their own life, I don't know, I'd be like celebrating. You know, I would read that dude's like suicide note like it was fucking Wattpad smut. That's like such an insanely evil thing to do. What
He
a
was
piece of
pretending to be
shit.
the top.
Yeah. I don't even know, man. That's
Yeah, it's
like
insane.
kind of evil beyond description. Like I in fact I hear that guy I hear that he's developing nuclear weapons currently. I hear he has nuclear ambitions at some point in the future. Wow, what a scumbag. Okay. Hey, what's up, the other Ian? How's it going? Ian, are you there? Oh no. Hey, how's it
what's up?
going?
Good. How are you?
Yep, I'm doing well. How old are you?
Old enough.
Yep. Well,
My 30.
sure.
My
Yeah.
30s.
What religion are you?
Christian.
Okay. What makes you think God exists?
Well, I was responding to the topic. You said God isn't real. So
Yeah.
how are you able to prove that it's not possible that there could be a God?
Yeah, sure. I think that there are dilemmas that kind of annihilate the possibility of a God. So either God was eternally creating or God began to create at some point. He was either doing it from eternity or not from eternity. So if God was eternally creating, then creation just exists eternally, which means that he never actually creates it. And there's like this thing that's co-eternal. It guts the doctrine of like creatio ex nihilo. That's out the window. But then the alternative is that God changes from not creating to creating, which means, first of all, God changes, but second of all, he's not in time, or he's not outside of time. God must be in time if he's a changing being.
Wait. Let me just. Is your argument that God could not have created something because then that would entail a change to his essence? Is that what you're saying?
Just that God would change from not creating to creating, and that all the things that change are in time.
Okay, so why is it a problem for God to do something, to take an action in time?
I'm not saying that it's a problem for him to take an action. I'm just saying that there are dilemmas that follow from it, and that both options lead to problems for the worldview.
Such as what? What's the dilemma that leads to a problem with the worldview?
I just laid it out. Do you need it a second time?
No, what you're saying is not actually a dilemma. You're saying that.
Which horn
saying that
then? Do you think God was eternally creating or not eternally creating?
No, I don't think he was eternally creating. I think that he
So he
created.
changes.
That's not a change to his essence. How is that a
But
change to
wait,
his essence?
did I say change to his essence? I don't think
What's
I don't think
wrong-
those words
No,
came out of my
you're
mouth.
You're saying he changes. So
Yes,
what
he
do you mean by
changes from a
changing?
state where he's not creating to a state where he is creating.
Okay, that's not a change to his essence. That's just an
I
action.
didn't say that it is a change to his essence.
No,
I'm
there's
saying that he
there's nothing wrong.
changes,
There's
and
nothing
that
there.
a
There's no
thing
problem.
that changes is in time. So then God would
There's-
be in time. So he's not the creator of time. So he's not an ultimate being. And also,
There's
he's
no-
not the creator of all things, as is claimed at multiple points throughout the Bible.
Yeah, there's no logical problem to having God create a universe that has time and then him being outside of that universe, being outside of time. There's no logical contradiction there.
There is a logical contradiction with the God that changes being outside of time, though. The criteria for whether or not God is in time is whether or not there is a sequence, whether or not there are sequential moments in the life of God. If God has no sequential moments, if there's just one moment, then that means that God is timeless. However, if God has a sequence of moments throughout his life, well, that's going to invoke a past, present, and a future. There's a past state of God, a future state of God, and a present state of God. But if that's the case, then that means that God is in time.
Yeah, I think that you would have to explain how you're measuring time. I think in this case,
What do you mean?
What was so funny?
Yeah, I have no idea why you think that like such an obvious dodge is going to do something for you in a time like this. Why I would need to specify how I measure time? What are you talking about?
You're just saying things without meaning. So I'm saying you have to
Which
define what
word
you're
did I
talking about.
say that doesn't have meaning? Which word are you getting tripped up on?
I'm not, yeah, it's not that I'm getting tripped up, is that you're just spouting things off without making any sense. Like you're saying that God must be within time if he creates something within time. That's just you saying something.
No,
That
that's
doesn't
not what I said. What I said is that if God changes, then he is in time. So if God changes from not creating to creating, then he would change, which means that he would be in time.
I don't see how that follows logically.
You don't think that logically follows? Okay, I can I'll help you out with how that logically follows. So, okay. If God changes, then he is in time. If God changes from not creating to creating, then he changes.
How is that him changing?
Therefore, God is in time.
So whenever God takes an action, that you think that means God changes?
Yeah, whenever God goes from not doing something to doing something, that's a change. He becomes different.
He is not becoming different. He's making something that is in creation. That's
Is
not
he
him
identical when he's creating as when he's not creating?
Is he identical when he's creating?
Yeah. Does he have
Well,
identical properties?
Yeah, his essence is identical and never changes.
I
yes.
didn't ask about his essence. I'm asking
That's
about the
what it
entirety
is.
of him, his essence
That's
and his
entirety.
accidents.
That's the entirety of him. Yes. His
So you think
essence.
he's entirely essence?
If you're asking about what God is, that's his essence. That's his subject matter. Yeah.
Do you think that God has accidents? Like non-essential properties?
Give me an example of what you're specifically
Yeah, for
asking.
example, like the length of my hair. You know, my hair could be shorter, my hair could be longer. You know, I'm still Ian. My essence wouldn't change if my hair got longer or if my hair got shorter.
It depends on how you are defining God in that case, because the word God is multivocal. If you're referring to God as his being, then I wouldn't say so. But if you're referring to God as in the person of Jesus Christ, then of course there are going to be accidents while Jesus is incarnate on the earth.
So, okay, so you don't think that God the Father changes or that he is, so you think that God the
No.
Father lacks accidents? You think that God the Father is purely essence?
Well, it says in the Bible that he's purely spirit, and it says
Okay.
if you're referring to accidents as like an earthly property, then God the Father doesn't have.
And which one created the universe?
Well, God in his entirety created the universe. All the persons work together in everything they do.
Okay, would you say that God the Father changed from not creating to creating?
Yes, at one point creation didn't exist, and then at another
Okay.
point it did exist, but God
Yeah.
himself did not change.
Yeah, that's an easy
That's what's
contradiction. So, okay, God the Father changes from not creating to creating.
That's not him changing, that's him taking an action. But
You don't
okay.
think that, okay, so is God eternally in a state where he's creating, or does he begin to create at some point?
No, he absolutely takes actions, but that doesn't
Yes.
entail.
Yes. But is he eternally in the state where that happens? Is this the same state? The state
No.
where God is acting to create, is that identical to the state where God is not acting to create?
No.
So then
not
it's a
identical.
change.
It's a change in what he's doing, but not him.
Yes, exactly. I'm not claiming that it's a change in his
Fine.
essence.
Let me agree.
You're like so confused. I've clarified
I'm
this
not
like
confused.
10
I'm
minutes
just-
ago, and now you're
just
insecure
pointing-
and confused. Right?
I'm
I
insecure.
clarified this like genuinely like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
talking
you-
about his essence. I'm just
Okay,
talking
you-
about like a change in his accidents or his
Okay, then
essence,
why,
either one of
why
them.
are you saying him God changes then?
Because
it's not
that is a
God changing.
change. You know,
No, it's God-
you
it's God doing
change
something.
when, for example, you get a haircut. There's something about you that's different now. That's a change.
Yeah, and that's not the case with God. God didn't change at all when he created something. So
Okay,
that's
so
where
he didn't change in any of his like non-essential properties. So he didn't go from one state to an incompatible state.
what is this non-essential property that you're referring to?
Specifically, whether or not he's acting to create.
Yes, of course he did. He did do something, but again,
Yes.
this is not changing anything about him. So when you write in your syllogism, God is changing, that's just not
Yes.
true.
Wait, so you agree it's not the same state, so it's a different state.
Yes.
So if you
yes.
go from one state to a different state, is that a change?
It's not a change in your essence, but it's
Define
a
a
change.
change then. If you don't think going from one state to a different, contradictory, incompatible state is a change, I just want to know what you think a change is then.
Yeah, because it's not him changing. And
Okay,
it's
so
an
a
external
change
act.
is defined as because it's not him changing.
How is it God changing? It's him taking an
Changing,
external act.
how is
That doesn't
it
make sense.
God changing? This is a crazy
For instance,
definition of change.
If I throw,
So wait, I just want to get clear. Your definition of change is because it's not him changing. How is it God changing? That's what you think change means?
No, I think when you're referring to change, or if you're either referring to two things: one, an action that he takes, or two, his essence, his being. Nothing changes with respect to his essence or being, but a change of course happens with respect to an action that he takes.
So if I were to say like I changed the courses that I was enrolled in this semester, you think that I'm saying like an action he takes or his essence to the classes I'm taking this semester? You think that's a definition of change? An action he takes or his essence?
No, I think the change is a modifier of the question is what is it modifying?
A modifier. So a change is just any modifier?
No, yeah, change is modifying an external state or modifying an internal state.
Modifying external state. Sorry. So like the modifying of an external state or of an internal state.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we say that God created the universe, it's not that God is changing. Like nothing about him changed. It's just that he
Was God willing the universe into existence internally?
No, I don't think that even makes sense. I think that that doesn't even make sense.
Well, you don't think that God causes things by willing them? How do you think God causes things?
Yeah, but you asked if he's willing it internally. What does that even mean?
Yeah, just like in the mind of God, he's willing the universe into existence.
Yes, that's
yeah. So he went from not willing the universe into existence to willing the universe into existence.
Yeah, and that's not a change in his being or essence, but that is.
I'm not claiming that it's a change in his essence. Why are you still so confused about this?
I'm not confused about.
Wait, I'll write it in big capital letters. I am not claiming that God is changing in his essence. So hopefully we don't have to make this mistake. Hopefully there's no confusion in the future.
There's no mistake if you write down in your syllogism that when you say God changes, that you specify that how, what you mean by change. That's fine. Like we agree with that.
Okay, yeah. So God the Father changes from not creating to creating. God the Father doesn't have non-essential properties, or maybe God the Father is entirely essential properties. If something is entirely essential properties, then it cannot change internally, which is just a contradiction, I guess.
Yeah, this is why you're playing fast and loose with your first point and your third point. We're not saying that God the Father is changing in an internal sense. We're saying that he is basically taking an action. That's not an internal change.
Does God know that the universe exists prior to creating it?
It didn't exist prior to creation.
Yeah, but does God know? Yeah, so then does God know that the universe exists after creating it?
Yes, but
so then he goes from not knowing it exists to knowing that it exists, which is an internal change.
Yeah, I don't think that's an internal change just because.
Where's God's knowledge? Is it not internal? Is it external?
I mean, that's a metaphysical question. That doesn't make any sense.
You don't think it makes sense to ask, is God's knowledge internal or external to himself?
Yeah, because you're referring to internal spirit / essence, which doesn't mean anything at all. It's a meaningless.
You used the word essence yourself, and I didn't use the word spirit a single time.
That's the only way to reference God prior to the existence of the universe.
Do you really think being bad faith at a time like this is going to be like a good look? Like, I just didn't claim anything about spirits, and I've already clarified. I'm not talking about like a change in his essence.
I think you're trying to semantically throw people for a loop, but it doesn't make any sense when you're using terms like internal knowledge and state changes when you're referring to God himself.
So God the Father changes from not knowing creation exists to knowing creation exists.
Like God always knows everything. So for you to say he doesn't know something that doesn't make any sense at all. That's the point. Like it's that, he knows everything. Creation didn't exist at one point. It existed at a second point. That doesn't mean that God internally changes.
Okay, so where is God's knowledge?
I don't know. That's a metaphysical question.
If God chose not to create, would anything external to God exist?
No.
Okay. Would God's knowledge exist if God chose not to create?
God's knowledge always exists because he is one with his divine simplicity. So he is his essence. So he is knowledge itself, basically.
Sure. Okay, wait. So then would God's knowledge exist if he chose not to create?
Yeah, again, like you have to define your terms. Like, what does existence mean prior to existence itself?
I didn't ask prior to existence itself. I asked prior to creation.
Yeah, but yes, God always existed. God is
I
love.
didn't
God
ask.
is knowledge. It always
Did
exists.
God's knowledge always exist?
Yes, so he exists. Yes, everything about him always existed.
Okay.
Yes.
And if God didn't create, his knowledge would still exist. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So here's why God's knowledge must be internal. It's because God's knowledge would exist even if there is nothing external to God. Even if the only thing that exists is God himself, meaning that all that exists is internal to God, God's knowledge would still exist, meaning that God's knowledge must be internal. It can't be external.
Yeah, there's nothing external to God prior to
Yes.
his creation. Yes. So
So then his
everything-
knowledge must be internal.
Yes, whatever that means to be internal. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
you define it as fine.
Okay, then we have a contradiction.
There's
So
no
God the Father
contradiction.
changes from not knowing creation exists to knowing creation exists. God the Father is entirely essential properties. If something is entirely essential properties, then it cannot change internally. God's knowledge changing is an internal change.
Yeah, when you're referring, this is the problem, and actually Muslims use this exact same thing when they say, "Did God the Father know that Jesus existed prior to his existence?" It's the exact same. It's a false semantic dilemma for the reason that the way that you're defining internal knowledge is not sensical in this context. It doesn't
You
make
already agreed that God's knowledge is internal. You already agreed that
well,
God's
I said-
knowledge
I
changes.
said
You must
whatever
agree that
it
there's an
means.
internal change that takes place within God.
No, I said whatever that means. There's absolutely no internal change to his essence. And I said you can't define. You don't even know how to define the quote internal knowledge of God. It just doesn't make sense in this context.
So, but you do think that God's knowledge is identical to his essence.
Yes, whatever that means, I do believe that. That's divine
Okay.
simplicity.
Yes. Okay. So we can work with that even. Okay. So God the Father changes from not knowing creation exists to knowing creation exists. God's essence is identical to his knowledge. If God's essence changes, maybe like God's essence cannot change.
God's essence doesn't change. That's right.
Yes, but then it would change because his knowledge changes and his knowledge is identical to his essence.
Yeah, this is why I'm saying there's a semantic trick between how are you using the word knowledge in the first point and how are you using the word knowledge in the second point. So
That's
for you to
obviously
say,
not true.
okay, well, this is what I would say. If you're just because God takes an action doesn't mean that he himself, his essence, his being actually changes. That's my ultimate point. And for you to say that it's a like you're saying, well, internal knowledge state changes, therefore his essence changes. Just because he knows that he's going to do something in the future. So did it actually change?
Yeah. He changes from knowing that creation does not exist to knowing that it does exist.
But he's known from the very outset when it would exist and that it would exist. So it's not like he, you know what I'm saying? So all this stuff happened external to him. He knew that it was going to happen. Nothing is surprising or changing. He's always known it. It's always was that way. It's just that something
Yes.
actually happened. That doesn't mean
Yes.
that he himself, his knowledge changed just because an external state changed.
Is there a fact of the matter as to whether or not creation exists? Simplicator?
Yes. The answer
Sure.
is yes.
So then there must, unless God knows just creation exists simplicator or creation does not exist simplicator, there must be some sort of fact of the matter, which means that God can't possibly be all knowing if he doesn't know that.
He does know that it doesn't exist yet, and he knows that it will exist in the future.
Yeah.
How is that a change?
Because knowing that something will happen is not the same thing as knowing that it has happened.
But you're talking about a metaphysical being that will know everything, that has known everything. It's like he knows when it will happen just because it hasn't, and God is outside of time. So it's like for him, there's no, A, B, C, D within the time scale. It's him knowing everything at the outset. So to him, he's looking at it from a fourth dimension or fifth dimension where it's already happened. Even to us, it hasn't happened yet. Does that make sense?
No, not at all. In fact, that like worsens the problem, right?
Okay.
You said that God changes from not creating to creating, so creation doesn't exist eternally. But if God sees creation eternally, then it must exist eternally.
No, I wouldn't say that, because for us it clearly doesn't exist eternally. It started at one point, but for him,
Hmm?
he's known everything at all times, so he has a higher dimensional view on things.
Yep. Yeah. So then all those times must just exist. Otherwise, there's like some fact that God doesn't know.
Yeah, no offense, but we're just playing insanely loose with semantic terms that are probably
We're not
being
playing loose with them at all. If you want me to define a term, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, for you to say something always existed when in our perception it hasn't existed yet just
Do
doesn't
you think
make
that's a
any
term
sense.
that, like, what's the term that you want defined, and I'll define it?
The word exists. How
The
do you
word
define
exists. I think
Yeah.
exists is pretty brute, but maybe like has being. You know, just like I might just say existence is just anything that you could truly like existentially quantify.
Okay, so did the universe exist before it was created in our perception?
Are you asking from my worldview?
I'm just asking you to answer that simple question because
From
you just
my
defined-
worldview or from yours?
From your worldview.
From my worldview, the universe didn't come into existence; it always existed.
Okay, and you're saying, and that's a quantifiable, measurable thing for it to quote exist, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible that at one point it didn't exist and then it came into existence?
No.
That's not possible. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying the only possibility is that that the universe has always existed forever.
Yes.
And you
correct.
Why is it logically impossible for it to have not existed at one point in time and then for it to have
Yes.
come into existence?
Yep. Because all changes are within time. If the universe came into existence, then it would change, or there would be a change in the universe. But of course, because time is a part of the universe, you would have time before time, which is an impossibility. So
Okay.
therefore, the universe just must have always existed because change must have always existed.
Okay, so I'll try to summarize your argument and provide some merit to it. So you're saying that before things were in motion in the universe, let's just say there was a plain state where there was no time. Okay,
Yeah.
so nothing was moving, there was no time, but something. Do you think that the universe still existed at that point? It was prior to time.
I don't think that there's a prior to time. I think that that's an incoherent notion.
Okay, so yeah, I think that this is kind of my broader point for you to say that it's impossible that something existed prior to the universe. Let's just say that it was a quantum state that wasn't moving. There's no time. How do you know that something didn't exist prior to that?
Well, okay, let me give you the argument formalized. So change is eternal. If change came into existence, and the supporting argument for that, if change came into existence, then a timeless state of affairs would change into a temporal state of affairs. A temporal state of affairs, or a timeless state of affairs cannot change. Therefore, change cannot come into existence. And then if change cannot come into existence, then change is eternal. Therefore, change is eternal. So if change is eternal, then time is eternal. If time is eternal, then the universe is eternal.
Yeah, but your first point is assuming that change is eternal, meaning it's always happening. There was nothing before change.
It's justified
Yeah,
by
you're saying there's
the
nothing
highlighted
before
portion.
change. You're saying there's nothing that was before change, right? But
Yes.
however, here's an example. Why couldn't a quantum state that was fixed and not changing exist prior to the point of change?
Yeah, because of the argument on screen.
If change came into existence, then a timeless state of affairs would change into a temporal state. Sure, that's fine. That's right. A timeless state of affairs cannot change. Okay. If change cannot come into existence, the change is eternal. I'm sorry, I'm just lost on that one. I don't see how it
So
connects.
yeah, I can. So the inference rule that this follows is if A is true, then B is true, and then for 1.2, B is false. Therefore, A must be false. If A is false, then
B, you're
C.
saying because B is false,
Therefore,
then A must be false?
C. So that's the inference rule. Is A implies B, not B. Not A implies not C, or implies C.
Just because it's not B
Therefore, C.
doesn't mean just because it's not B doesn't mean that it's not A. It could be. Okay, actually, that does follow. Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, you agree that there could be a fixed quantum state, right?
No.
So that disproves your. Oh, you don't think so?
No.
Interesting.
Because of the argument on screen.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Change cannot come into existence, then change is eternal. If change cannot come into existence, then change is eternal. I appreciate your effort here, man. To be quite honest, I just am having a hard time.
That's okay. If you want to come back some later time, that's totally fine.
No, anyway, good discussion, but I think this is getting extremely complex, and I don't know if your chat is following, but I do appreciate your effort. So,
yep. Well, is there anything else?
No, God is real, but no.
Okay.
Have a good one, man.
Yep, you too. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. What do I got? Okay. Wolfbane, thanks so much for the super chat. Happy Pride Month. Love watching you fighting these science-fearing heathens. Thanks, Wolfbane. Happy Pride Month to you as well. Let's get a big W for Wolfbane. I really appreciate that. Rodblow, thanks so much for the super chat. Ian, in your opinion, can philosophy help with cognitive restructuring, and how much is that already working intuitively? Thanks. This is kind of the entire point of Plato's allegory of the cave, is that most people go through their lives thinking at a level that's very shallow. They're not really trying to understand reality. People don't know the depth that there is in reality, even like mundane things in reality, like the glass. I don't know. There are so many questions that you can ask about this glass. You can ask questions about like its mereological composition, like where does the glass end and the hand begin? You can ask questions about like its grounding, like what does this glass of water like reduce to? Does it supervene on like fields? What are those fields reduced to? Like what caused it? There are just so many questions, and there's so many like layers of reality. There are so many distinctions that you can draw and questions that you can ask. And most people aren't interested in that. There's so much of reality that people who don't study philosophy will just never think about. They'll never think about something like grounding. They'll never think about something like, I don't know, the nature of the mind with respect to like intentionality. That's kind of Plato's point, is that most people exist at a state of knowledge that's pretty pitiful. That he kind of created he had 4 total categories that he thought like beliefs could fall into. It starts with like your baseless fucking opinion that you picked up from like some talking head on the news, and then I don't know. There's like a progression there. I'm sure there's like reasons for all of them, but it's like the second one is like, okay, you have like some justification, like you've thought about it a bit, and then the third one is like you're starting to like grasp it, or like I don't know. It's like the level at which you grasp like you kind of like intuit it, and then the fourth level is like you've rationally arrived at this conclusion. That's like the final stage of knowledge. This is his much lesser known like allegory of the line. You've all heard of the allegory of the cave. Now get ready for the allegory of the line. But I don't know. I think that that's true. I really feel like studying philosophy, even though I've only studied it for a couple of years, has been totally life-changing, way more so than anything I've ever done leading up to this point, by like a long shot. It's changed me in like profound ways. It's changed the way that I think about things in profound ways. it's like well worth it. I actually can't imagine going back to like a previous state. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. Just so you know, if God can't change his essence by deduction, that means he lacks the power. No, no. You just want to say that God can do the things that are well, okay, yes, but that's fine because the theist just wants to say that God can do the things that are logically possible. That he has all logically possible powers, and they just say that that one's logically impossible. A thing can't change its essence without going out of existence, which violates God's eternity. One sec. Let me Okay, excellent. Sorry, 1 second. I have to order something. The restaurant just opened up.
While Ian orders their dinner, make sure that you are double tapping on that screen on TikTok. Send your daily heart me. It's 1 coin. You can also send the Go Popular for 1 coin, and you can send the Ian Curls for 1 coin. All 3 of those 1 coin gifts on TikTok help a ton with getting the algorithm boosted and keeping TikTok happy with Ian. Also, Ian, while I'm talking already, I have a question. What if someone just said that God knows of the existence of the universe the whole time, and before the universe existence, God basically knows, it doesn't exist, and then when it does, God knows it does. So God knows like of the existence.
Sure.
As a way to like futz around that.
Yeah, well then by that logic, like my knowledge would be unchanging because you could describe my knowledge like unchangingly as like just the things that Ian knows. And then, it's always like whatever I know, it's just always like the things that Ian knows. I think that if the specific like mental representation in God's mind is changing, which I think it would need to, it's just like a different thought, like knowing that the universe exists, knowing like this water bottle is on my desk is different than knowing that it isn't on my desk. This can't possibly be the same state, even though both of them are like the same, they fall into like the same category of like the knowledge that I have about the existence of the water bottle or of the water glass. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay.
Yep.
Just want you to be ready for that when inevitably a theist also thinks it.
Yeah. The actual based response, in fact, I think the only response that works is you have to jettison presentism, and you have to hold to eternalism. You have to say that past, present, and future are all just actual. That there is, you just have to adopt the B theory of time, essentially. I think that's kind of the only way around it. But then that has the unfortunate consequence, which is that God never brings it into existence. It just always exists. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, okay. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. Just so you know, if God can't change his essence, oh yeah, I already read that. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. If God knows everything, does he know I'm coming to take his job because he has demonstrated a shit performance? You're fired, Grimmy says to God. I think you can have a first moment in B theory. So I think that what you can have in B theory is you can have like a timeline that has like a starting point, and then like the entire timeline just always exists. But I certainly find it more intuitive to think that there's just like an infinite regress. But technically, I do actually think that like just like some weird eternal timeline, and there's just like a starting point to it, it might be fine. Cantankerous Manel, thanks so much for the super chat. Did you see Dillahunty and Rabinowitz debate ethics? Oh, did they? I think I heard about this from Dillahunty. What? Why the fuck is this fuck over at Deconstruction Zone taking my fucking time slot? I'm kidding. I love that dude. 1 sec. Let me look at the Rabinowitz. Dillahunty. No, I didn't. I heard about this from. I heard about this from Matt, but no, I didn't. I haven't seen it. Striped Ball, thanks so much for the super chat. Plato's Cave is the first PSA. True, truth nuke. absolute truth fucking obliteration. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Hey, how's it going?
Yo, I'm good, man. How's it going?
Doing well. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Yep. And what religion?
Actually, I'm an atheist, but there's something that's been bothering me these days regarding existence, and I would like for you to know, Alexis. Sorry, I'm not that good in English, but I'd like for you to clarify something for me.
Sure.
So essentially, my problem is that for me, how I define existence is that it needs a conscious observer. So essentially, like, you know, that famous old thing where, like, if a tree falls in the forest, did it really fall if there was nobody to see it? And I take it the same way when it comes to existence as a whole.
I don't know why you would hold that. I don't know. That view just seems like false to me. In fact, I think that there's a problem with that view. So that view definitely collapses into idealism. In fact, I think it might just be idealism, which is basically the idea that at the foundation of reality is like mental stuff. And I think that there's a problem for idealism, which is that, you know, so fuck, this is going to get way too technical way too quickly. I'm sorry. This might go over your head.
Yeah.
So when we have
Yeah,
mental
but that-
states, when I have a desire, it's like a desire for something. When I have a thought, it's a thought about something. When I'm angry at something. Our mental states have like, there have to be things external to our mental states for our mental states to be about. And if the foundational level of reality is mental, it's not clear what it could be about. It seems like it would just be about different mental states, but then it's not clear how you get reality from mental states that are about other mental states.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew this would become a bit too complicated, and why I chose this platform for
Mhm.
it is that because, like, according to us as science and all evolution and all of this stuff, there were no conscious observers in the beginning of the universe, like up until, like, I don't know, like a few 100 million years ago when, like, the first things popped up. And for me, at that time, the universe did not exist until the first conscious observer quantified something. So essentially, if you can measure something, count it, or calculate it, that's what brings something into existence. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the only reason why I'm not fully atheist, because I believe that there should be a God or a conscious observer to actually quantify something for it to exist.
I don't really know what you mean when you say there should be a God. I don't really know what should is doing there. But you know, anyway, I'm probably gonna just move on to the next one. Hey, if you want to debate this topic, I think I only have an atheist, and there's this guy who like comes on and trolls in the guest request box. So make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I'm also willing to debate like a deist. Debating a deist would be totally chill. That's fine. But you know, feel free to request to join. I would love to see you. You know, I know you have a disagreement, but you're an atheist. Hey, how's it going?
I'm 19. I can lie if you want. But I mean, with the thesis, I was trying to be funny. It didn't work. It's cool.
No.
What I was trying to, I do disagree with the first moment of time thing.
Okay. So maybe you could like motivate that for me.
Sure. So what you're referring with the first moment is like, obviously we're holding the B theory, right? But
yeah,
you're referring to the Hartle, Hawking no boundary proposal. Correct?
Not even. Just
Really?
like any, like, let's say like, okay. So one view that I like, are you familiar with like the wave function and like wave function monism stuff?
Yeah, quantum field theory.
Nah, not really, but kind of, sort of. It's probably, they're probably like in like similar ballparks.
You mean like quantum fluctuations, like that?
Not really. Okay,
okay.
So there's a view in metaphysics called wave function monism, and it holds that all of physical reality reduces to like a fundamental physical object called the wave function.
Yeah.
And okay, so what's going to be the case is that the wave function somehow gives rise to things like time and things like space. And that's messy. The process of going from wave function to time and space is not clean. It's not clear what's like how you get from one to the other. But it seems plausible that at some point in its like giving rise to the timeline, that the timeline just has like a first moment. I'm not sure what the problem with that would be.
For me, that would kind of be saying that this wave function is more fundamental than space time.
It would, yeah. That's literally what the view says, yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I think the wave function is just like change, correct? It's just like, is that not what inherits? Here, can you describe to me what wave function? Maybe I'm not following.
Okay, so the wave function, this isn't like a 100% true description, but the wave function basically tells you, it's basically like a probability distribution for the odds that a particle is at a specific position. So you know the sine wave, you remember that guy, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that we had like a sine wave and that this was equivalent to, you know, this represents like the probability that like a particle is found along like a specific axis from 0 to 1. You know, there's like this level of like probability going on there. You know, it's very likely to be found like over here or like over here. At the peaks, at like the longest places, it's very likely to be found. Then it's like way less likely to be found where it's like lower. So that's basically what the wave function describes. But like a universal wave function would describe kind of the combination and overlap of the wave function of like each individual particle into like some like mega fucking humongous like mathematical object or like something of that sort.
Sorry, what? And tell me if I'm wrong. Would this be like basically what string theory is trying to like figure out, or am I incorrect?
I don't know enough about string theory, but I'm pretty sure no. I see that scumbag Quantonaut is in here, so if he wants to come up here and share his physics knowledge, he's more than welcome to. But
yeah, he definitely knows more than me.
My understanding is no. My understanding is that quantum physics is doing something at a level deeper than string theory.
I don't know. It's hard for me to, I don't know. That'd be hard for me to say like there isn't already pre-existing time for that, for anything to occur. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that would.
Yeah. So, well, okay. This isn't the relationship between the wave function and time isn't a causal relation. It's a grounding relation. You're not saying that the wave function causes time into existence. You're saying that in the same way that electricity just reduces to electrons and electrons just reduces to excitations and electron fields. And then, you know, it kind of gets fuzzy when you ask like, what do electron fields reduce to? You're saying that ultimately, if you follow like the chain of like reduction, it all ends up as like reducing to the wave function. That's the view. That's wave function monism, is you're stating that all of physical reality reduces to the wave function.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like literally just vice versa, where it all reduces down to space-time. That's why it's like conflicting for me.
Sure, yeah. Hello. Yeah, have you been listening? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so I believe what you're trying to get at is the idea that like time is an emergent behavior from quantum correlations.
Yeah.
Does that sound?
Well, maybe. Could be. Just that somehow. So you're familiar with like the universal wave function as like a foundations of physics like nonsense idea. You know, the Everett interpretation stuff. But presumably, so if the fundamental thing that everything stems from is the wave function, then at some point in this, time emerges somehow.
Yeah, it's related to how different quantum states are correlated with each other, rather than actually like being a fundamental thing in itself.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that makes sense.
Okay, so I mean, is that like a view that I don't know, it's like a 50-50, like they both work, that, you know, space-time can be independent of, you know, quantum fields, and it could just work vice versa, or?
You probably have reasons to think that quantum fields are like just properties of specific points in space-time.
That's kind of where I'm at. I feel like it would be more problems that arise if I say that quantum, like this wave function, is more fundamental than space-time compared to
Oh,
space-time.
sorry. Wait, so there's a distinction between like the wave function and quantum fields. I don't know, Quantanaut, are you able to give like a clear differentiation?
Yeah, I mean, the wave function is something that's described in just regular quantum mechanics, whereas quantum field theory is like an extension of quantum mechanics that describes, the high energy regime of quantum mechanics. But you don't need to go that far to define what a wave function is.
Sure. Okay. I don't know. That's weird for me because I hold to quantum field theory. So that's like I don't know. Maybe I just need to research more, and that's simply what it is.
Quantum field theory has wave functions in it. It's just not exclusive to it.
Sure, and that's not
you don't need to
referring-
go that
okay,
far
yeah.
to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably just like ignorance, probably on my part.
That's
so
okay.
I can like.
If you want to look into it, there's a great book. So Sean Carroll has a really good book that goes over the physics. It's titled Something Deeply Hidden. And then Alyssa Ney has an excellent book that goes into the philosophy of wave function monism, titled The World Within the Wave Function.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys.
Yep. Quantanaut, don't you think that it's deeply unethical to make? Don't you think the muons are sad to be living so long? Don't you think they want to fade into? Don't you think they want to decay? Isn't it kind of inhumane?
They want
what you-
to. Yeah, they certainly want to decay as quickly as they can, but we don't let them.
Yeah, that's agonizing. You're keeping them in this cursed state.
Oh, I did want to ask if you would potentially need me to fill in on the next unapologetic.
I think Blitz is back by then, but if not, I will for sure let you know. And yes. We would definitely love for you to fill in on the next one if Blitz is not back.
Yeah, just keep me informed.
Yep, absolutely. Well, yep.
Later.
Later. Hey, how's it going?
Wait, no, I wanted to talk to Quantanaut.
Oh, about what?
About. Never mind. We can. I can give you another argument. I can give you like a banger syllogism for.
Please, yeah, go for it.
Metaphysics and God. So P1 is all universes. Oh wait. P1 is every logical universe exists.
Every
P2
logical.
Every
universe
logical exists. P2 is this universe is logical.
This universe is logical.
And conclusion, God, therefore God.
This just doesn't follow. The conclusion literally just doesn't follow. There is a conclusion that follows, which is that.
Wait, hold up.
This universe exists. I agree. This universe exists.
Yeah, but it's first like you've gotta. So this is making a claim that existence itself is about being logically consistent, right?
Sounds good, champ. How do we get to God?
Oh, but you have to at least have just a good. So you do agree that every logical universe exists? Is that what
Are you saying like every universe that doesn't violate laws of logic exists?
In a sense, yeah. Let me put it this way, right? A unicorn and a horse can exist, right? The fact that this universe exists is just a matter of preference.
No. I don't grant that then. If that's what
it's
you're
not
saying.
about it's not about worlds, right? It's not about this world and that world. It's about the fact that you need some kind of rules and consistency for anything to exist. Those consistency laws exist. Those consistency laws are what dictates existence, right?
I simply don't grant this that unicorns exist. or
No,
that they're
I'm
like
I'm saying
possible.
I'm saying that they're possible, right? It's just like a matter of having a horse with a horn on its head. That's all. Like it's just a matter of preference. But the things that dictate its existence, right? The things of life, the things of physical attributes, right? Physical properties, like the things dictating what a humanity is, right? The things that is like we could have had 10 feet. We could have had 2
I'm
feet.
sorry. I'm probably
but-
just gonna get this back on track. So, okay, the syllogism that you gave is invalid. The conclusion simply does not follow. Is there like a second argument, or is there more you want to add to get to God?
But I didn't argue it yet. Like
You
it's
gave a
just like you're just saying
syllogism.
it's
You gave
invalid.
premise 1, premise 2, and the conclusion just doesn't follow.
There's like a bunch of things in between, but like which one are you rejecting?
Which one am I rejecting?
Yeah,
I'm rejecting
you're
that the
just
conclusion follows from the premises. Let me write this out. Okay, so you're saying, gosh, I'll have to do like predicate logic to formalize this. For any x such that L of x E of x, which is just saying, okay, for any x such that x is logical, x exists. Is that, or maybe something like, I don't know, x is the universe?
That's not what I'm saying. That's not. Yeah, I'm saying the things that dictate the existence of X are logical. That's all, right? Like, for instance, if I'm just saying, like, when I say a unicorn can exist, it's just a matter of preference, right? The things that dictate the unicorn's existence or the horse's existence is just a matter of preference. The things that, like, the physical attributes, the physical properties, all those things, the things that dictate life and such, in both cases, both the unicorn and the horse are the same, right? And I heard you make an argument.
Wait, sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. So this just simply doesn't follow, because both of these premises could be true, and then the conclusion is not guaranteed to be true. Like, in fact, like the term in the conclusion, this like the God term, therefore God, doesn't appear in either of the premises. It can't possibly follow from the premises if it doesn't appear in the premises.
Well, what? It has to appear? It does appear in the premises, because
therefore God, that doesn't appear in the premises.
Well, that is what God is, like, in its essence. It's just God is God is found in its logic and its intent, the intent of the universe that we have today.
So okay, wait. So God is what?
Wait.
You want to say like God is logic?
No, because you would have to have a metaphysics based on the physics that we have today, right? Like, I heard you.
That's
make an argument.
great. But what's the argument
Wait.
for God's existence?
Look, I'm gonna give you an example. The example is, I've heard you make an argument about morality, which is just based on logic, right? I've heard you make that argument. So if you take that at face value, if you're saying that morality could just be a product of being logical, and this also dictates that the fact that we as human beings, that you subscribe to the ideas of love and such, those things are the things that would actually give God, the existence of God, more credence, right? More legitimacy, because you are looking at reality and therefore deriving these concepts that more or less align with God having an intention. Are you writing everything that I'm saying?
Yeah, this is your third premise. It's pretty long.
Yeah, but you did you hear what I just said, or are you just trolling?
Yeah, I
me?
just typed it all down. Yeah, I've heard you make an argument for morality just based on logic. If morality could just be a product of being logical, you subscribe to the idea of love and such. This gives the existence of God more credence, more legitimacy. They align. Therefore, God.
They align with the biblical God, right?
But the
again, like
conclusion, therefore, God just doesn't follow from this. If you okay, I people should not feel obligated to give syllogisms, because it's way better to just give the argument like informally, and then, you know, I'm not gonna
it's
be like,
poetry. It's poetry. I want to be poetic, right? It's just 1 and 2, and the 3 is like a crescendo. It's a banger, and I want your pupils to dilate when you look at this, and then like when everything connects, it's like that aha moment, and you give your life to Christ, right? I want it to be that moment for you.
me trying to get partial credit on the math exam. You know, it's just poetry. The proof is just poetry. What are you talking about?
I just like you started trolling.
Listen, from the bottom of my heart, and I mean this, you know, I feel very strongly about Monkey Boy's YouTube channel. I think everybody should go and subscribe to Monkey Boy's YouTube channel. It's the best YouTube channel, stands independently, intersubjectively. I say that from the depths of my heart. But if you go even deeper into my heart, if you go down a layer in my heart, what's even deeper is like my desire that you would never syllogize again. That this was awful. You should feel ashamed. I'm embarrassed for you.
I'm not a Phil bro. I'm just
please
trying
never try to formalize an argument ever again till the day you die. All right. All right. Let's read some supers. I'm currently reading Locke's An Essay Concerning Human Understanding, and I'm curious to hear your take on his level of certainty. Do you feel that probability is sufficient for human reason in examining the world? Yeah, I think that the Bayesian framework is probably indispensable. I think like the Bayesian framework is also like just true. That, and there are problems. You know, it's not like a perfect framework. There's like work to be done in making it like functional, workable, etc. I know that's different from Locke. I haven't read all of An Essay Concerning Human Understanding. I've only read this section that was relevant for like philosophy of language. I think it's like the 3rd section where it goes into like the real essences, the nominal essences. That was like the first book I read on philosophy of language, actually. It's a really good introduction to that specifically. Like a lot of things, that's kind of like the worst, or not the worst. It's one of the first serious formalizations about how language works, like how it operates. The 3rd section in Locke's An Essay Concerning Human Understanding, but I skipped the rest of the book. But yeah, I think probability is sufficient. I'm inclined to think that that's true. I think I'm probably going to, I'm very evilly, cruelly going to end the stream maybe early because I have nobody requesting to join. But what I'm also going to do is shout out the book club. There's the Feminist Reading Book Club that's today. The reading group today for the Feminist Book Club. It's at 8:15 EST. It's chapter 2, Ameliorating Misogyny. Ameliorating. That's a great word. It also comes up a lot in philosophy of gender and lots of analytic fill of gender, analytic fill related to I think like feminism in general. Lots of talk about like ameliorating specific concepts or like societal conditions. But regardless, you guys should all check it out. It's led by Lizzie, who's fantastic. You will all have a blast. Best of luck. I might even stop by and join you. We'll see. Although it pushes up against my bedtime. So the other one that we're reading On Virtue Ethics by Rosalind Hursthouse. This is coming up this week on Saturday. I think I'm hosting the one this week. So all you have to read is the introduction chapter. Rosalind Hursthouse is On Virtue Ethics. I'm so excited. Rosalind Hursthouse is fantastic. On Virtue Ethics is a fantastic book. The project is great. It's compelling. I don't know. As soon as I get done with like the God and causation argument, like the God and time stuff, it's virtue ethics time, frankly. I'm going to be grinding away at virtue ethics, and you guys should all join me for that. Monkey Bitness, thanks so much for the super chat. Good stream. Good super chat, Monkey Bitness. Let's get a big W for Monkey Bitness. Other than that, I love all of you. Have a great day. I hope you have fantastic time. I know Justin's live with Godless Engineer. Go give them a raid. I'll see you all later.